All right, so that was my wrestling entrance theme music. It was 1992, and I have to make entrance music for a wrestler called Ether Diver. So that was that. I spent a lot of time on this prompt, probably more than I have on any other prompt, and developed it more than any other prompt, I think, at least in terms of number of tracks, if nothing else. But that is because I had a very clear vision for this one. Um, let me walk you through it. Vision wise, my thought process was okay, so it was given a very specific date, 1992, um, and wrestling theme music, which I don't know that much about, but I asked a friend of mine who does, and he gave me some suggestions, which I don't know how well I integrated them. And the person who put the prompt up, I believe, posted some wrestling theme music, and so between that, I got some rough idea. And again, I don't know that I actually matched it, but I had a vision, and the vision was to use a lot of period appropriate. Although I don't know that they would have been used in this way, but they certainly existed and could have been pieced together in the way that I've done so here. Instruments to create this theme song. Now, emulations, obviously, I do not own all these instruments, but and so that started actually with the Fairlight CMI, and the reason for that is because the first idea I got for this was to use the orchestra hit. If you know anything about the history of uh, electronic music production, dance music in particular, orchestra hits, that's no joke. And the original orchestra hit is from this Fairlight CMI. So it was like on the original disc. And yeah, there's an Arturia version of that. So I found the orchestra hit, and then I just went through a bunch of other uh, presets on the Fairlight. Not many of them were original presets. The other ones that I used, there was this drum loop here, which is play this here. I'll just solo that. So 2 bar drum loop, fun. Okay, and then there's DX7 bass. It's actually playing a Lately bass, which is a TX81Z patch, but this DX7 emulation, it covers all that, even though it says DX7. It's technically right now being a TX81Z playing the Lately bass patch, which is a very famous house bass patch, and it sounds like this. Alright, and then there's some bleeps, and these are actually also presets from the Fairlight CMI, and these actually might have been, now that I think about it, these might have been period appropriate bleeps. Let me solo this track. This other part, and that was, I thought that was pretty cool. I found that just paging through the presets, that kind of, got my vision. It's like, yes, this is gonna work. There's some appropriate stuff in here. Yeah, here's the orchestra hits. Solo this track. Right, orchestra hit, good old orc hit. And then for the next track, I decided once I got going, I was like, oh, I think some of these people had their like call outs for their names or whatever in there. So I, or at least I imagined that it would make sense. So I did a vocoder patch with a sample of me just saying Ether Diver in sort of a silly, exaggerated way into a microphone. I made a little sample of that, and that's in vocoder. That's the vocoder V patch. That's the Arturia's like emulation, I think, of the Moog vocoder. Uh, and then I have the Jupiter 8's just playing some wonky chords, and the Wave Station is actually playing the main chords. Um, Wave Station would have been the newest thing on this that is in this inclusion here. On one of these two, I know where it is. Never mind. I'll get to that in a second. Um, Yeah, so and Jupiter 8 would have been around. All these would have been around. Actually, a lot of them would have been verging on old fashioned by the time 1992 rolled around. But that's probably appropriate. I'm assuming wrestling theme song makers weren't necessarily the hippest guys, and probably this is already pushing it in terms of what hipness would have flown. Yeah, and then I have Wave Station's just doing some chords. It's like a string patch. It's got a little movement in it. It's pretty interesting. And then got 303. Got to have a 303 line. Acid House would have been like a few years old now, but again, probably way too hip for the WWF. But a guy can dream. And then this last track is just me doing my name, the ether, saying Ether Diver in an exaggerated way, and running through a bunch of effects. It's got a H3000 harmonizer, which would have been an effect that you could have found in studios at that point, and then a phaser. These are all built-in effects. This is supposed to be like it's Ableton's version of Space Echo, and that's a thing you probably would have found. And anyway, any studio would have had ways to phase and flange, and mostly everything else I used on is it's compressors and EQs, channel strips basically. Yeah, and that's it. That's the whole track. And thanks for checking out the thing. I hope you enjoyed this one. I enjoyed making it. It was a great prompt. Um, I had I thought it might be fun, but I actually had way more fun with it than I think I would have expected. So thanks for sending it out. Bye.